Hey everybody, how you doing? It's Everett with Ohio for Freedom. Today I'm going to answer a question that I asked in a question of the day. Can vaccine companies that manufacture a vaccine for COVID-19, can they be held liable if there's something wrong with the vaccine, if people are injured by it? And I will do you the favor of cutting to the chase. The answer is no. They cannot be held liable. They will not be held liable. That's not opinion, that's fact. I'm going to show it to you. So today we're going to look at two pieces of vaccine law. One which a lot of people are aware of, but a lot of people are not, because most of us have better things to do than go around thinking about vaccine law. And the second, I think almost nobody is aware of. Both of these pieces of information everyone should be aware of. So as we get started, let me just say, whether you're pro-vaccine or not so sure about a vaccine, I think we would all agree that vaccines should be safe and that all of the inherent risks associated with a vaccine should be fully disclosed to someone before they take it, so that they could make an informed decision. I hope you would also agree that a vaccine should be voluntary. There are those that don't hold that position. They think it should be forced on everybody. And then lastly, I think we would all agree that if a vaccine causes injury, that the company that produced it should be held liable. So how many agree with that? Let me see your hand. Good. Okay, so in 1986, there was a piece of legislation enacted that virtually eliminates liability on behalf of vaccine companies, especially as relates to children. I'm going to show you that legislation in just a minute. It was signed into law by President Reagan, and it basically is a no-fault way for vaccine companies to keep moving. It has paid out over $4 billion, so that's proof that there are injuries associated with vaccines. But when I say it's no fault, I look at it as though it's just a cost of doing business, because the companies never have to admit that they're doing anything wrong. It's a mechanism where the few people that are hurt can be compensated. But without further ado, let's go into the legislation.
Very quick overview of the Act. Here is Congress.gov. Here is the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act of 1986. It limits damages to $250,000 and prohibits awards for punitive damages. I also found this interesting. It provides no vaccine manufacturer shall be liable in civil actions for damages arising from vaccine-related injury or death. This is from the HRSA website. What is the process? Individual files a petition. The Department of Health reviews the petition, decides if it can go forward. The Department of Justice develops a report. And then this was interesting to me. The report is presented to a court-appointed special master. So it's not a jury, it's one individual, a special master, who decides if compensation should be awarded and how. But if you're not happy with the special master's decision, you can file in civil court. So after you've gone through that whole process, I'm sure you have lots of money, time, energy, and stamina to file in civil court.
So for just a real quick review, I'm going to say the same thing twice, plus be redundant and repeat myself, but $250,000 for a child that is injured for life, does that even come close to taking care of the expenses that you'd have for caring for the child, let alone their loss of opportunity, their loss of, what they would have earned during their lifetime? So that's another issue. The no liability thing, it's right there spelled out in the statute. And this special master business, that really kind of bothers me too. Is that you're not going to, you don't get to present a case before a jury. You got one person that decides that, and if they decide that damage was done, they decide what the compensation would be. And something that I learned from Judy Mikovits in her book, Plague of Corruption, which is excellent, is that discovery from one case can't be used in another. So if you have John Smith bringing a case with a certain set of facts and he is successful in his case, you can have Bill Smith over here with almost an identical case, but he can't cite discovery from the previous case. So the thing is really, really rigged in the favor of the pharmaceutical companies. And then the whole business of no fault, to me, just means it's the pharmaceutical companies are barreling down the street and, oop, we hit a kid there, oop, we hit a kid there. So you screech on the brakes and say, ma'am, is that your kid that is laying there on the sidewalk getting ready to die? Yeah. Okay, here's $20. And pow, they just keep barreling on. So kind of back up this notion of no fault. Let's look at the Wikipedia definition as they describe this law.
So for just a little more clarity, I went to Wikipedia and looked up this NCVIA Act. And under the NCVIA Act, the basic goal was to provide a federal no-fault system for compensating vaccine-related injuries or death.
And then one other thing that I find very, well, let's just point it out, is that you can appeal the results of this process. You can even withdraw the case and take it to civil court after you've done the first step. Let me ask you a question. Can you really picture a family that has a severely injured child that's already gone through this process, that's going to have the time, the resources, the money, the emotional energy, and all of the above to take somebody in civil court? This thing is really, really rigged in favor of the pharmaceutical companies.
Does this industry and the whole process have detractors? Oh yeah, just wanted to pull this article. Pharmaceutical companies have paid out over $4 billion for vaccine injuries and deaths.
Now, in this area of vaccine and vaccine injury, there's, two sides. There's the government and big pharma side, and there's the side of those that have been injured. And I can't speak for the injury side. That is exhaustive, and that's a big, big subject, but I would encourage you to look into a couple of names. Bobby Kennedy with the Children's Health Defense.org, I believe it is, but just Google up Bobby Kennedy, and you'll get a ton of information. Dr. Wakefield, it was mentioned in that previous clip, has a movie out, just coming out right now, 1986, The Act. You can go there, you can buy it online, and it's got the documentation like we showed. I'd encourage you to check that out. But folks, it's just naive to say that there isn't a massive amount of injury from vaccines that has taken place. And I just cannot subscribe to the idea that vaccines always are the silver bullet, the magic pill, the make all problems go away. And let's just look at one example of how the media treats this arrangement between pharmaceutical companies, the government, and the consumer. This is from Atlantic.com, and it says, why the government pays billions to people who claim vaccine injury. I mean, just looking at the headline would make it seem like people are just claiming injury. You see that? Well, let me tell you one thing. If they can't prove it, they'd never pay out a dime. We all know that. And then it goes on to say a little known deal protects drug companies in the U.S. from being sued and feeds conspiracy theories in the process. So the biased story even acknowledges that it's a very little well-known deal, but yet they still proceed with this bias that people are claiming to be injured. But I'm going to have to leave that alone because it's a huge subject, as I said already. But here we are with a vaccine that is coming down the pike at us at 90 miles an hour, and everything that we talked about with this 1986 law, forget it, because it don't matter no more, because that's not what governs what's happening right now. In 2005, the Public Readiness and Emergency Preparedness Act was written into law, and February 4th of this year, it was put into practice or enacted by Secretary Azar. Let's take a look at it right now.
Here's the Federal Register, and this is the declaration under the Public Readiness and Emergency Preparedness Act for medical countermeasures against COVID-19. And if we go down here, you'll see that it was put into effect on February 4th. I'm on the same page, but as previously highlighted, Section 4, Limited Immunity. A covered person shall be immune from suit and liability under federal and state law. And you come down here, and it tells you who has immunity, and that would be manufacturers, distributors, program planners, qualified persons, officials, agents, employees, and the United States. So basically everybody is immune.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that is the law of the land, no liability. If you think vaccines are always 1,000% safe, you have nothing to worry about. If there is any possibility that a vaccine could cause injury, you have no remedy. That law is in effect until Secretary Azar turns it off, and I don't see that happening anytime soon. I'll tell you a quick little story, and we'll wrap this up. I've got a customer who's an engineer, and he's overseeing, and right here in Westchester, Ohio, the construction of a plant. So he oversees the architects and all the laborers and everything, because they're getting ready to make this vaccine. And he told me just 2 days ago that his guys are working, and he's volunteered this, he's all proud of it, 16 hours a day, and they work in 10-day, a stretch of 10 days, and then they get 2 days off. And he says, we are doing this until the first of the year so that we will have these vaccines ready. So now these aren't the researchers, but if you look at that feverish pitch of activity, let me ask you a question. Do mistakes ever get made when you're working 16-hour days for 10 days straight? Do they ever get made? And everybody wants to be first with this. Everybody wants to get that big deal. And why not work as hard as you can? Why not work as fast as you can? Why not cover up a few things if there's a mistake? And there's all kind of things I'm not getting into, like possible nanotechnology and the way these things are administered and all that. I'm just talking about this. I just wanted to put this video out there so that people realize. Google up PREP 2020 Federal Register. It'll take you right there. But in the administration of this vaccine, from the researchers to the pharmaceutical companies to the doctors that prescribe it to the people that administer, everybody involved, zero liability. So until next time, God bless you. Yeah, I got some noise going on in the background. God bless you. God bless your family. God bless the state of Ohio, and God bless the United States of America.